Hello, everybody. How's it going? Marcos Villegas, Fight Up TV. Follow and like if you're watching this right now or on a further down the line stream. Hey, man, sorry, this is like an impromptu live that I just had to go and do. I'm about to get on a flight in a little bit to Guadalajara, Mexico, excuse me. Morgan the Chavez Jr. versus Anderson Silva card on pay-per-view. I'll be scoring the fight for the telecast. So buy your pay-per-view for that to go ahead and see me on that. Over the weekend, I worked the Austin Mcbroon versus Bryce Hall fight. I was interviewing Team YouTube, aka all the YouTubers such as Austin, Gib, DDG, Deji, and all the other guys in the corner. I wanted to talk about how it was working that experience. I have limited time. I could only be on here for maybe 20, 25 minutes. I'm hoping that it's not too last minute for some of you guys, so you can go on here and I can interact with all you and talk to you about the experience of working the event. But the question is this something to stay, and is this something that's going to be the new form of boxing? And I've thought about this for a while now. I thought about this over the weekend to kind of digest everything that's happened. And I think the thing that I took away from this is it's going to be its own separate thing, okay, with its own separate audience. I don't think it's going to compete with boxing, or if this is going to be the new form of boxing. These guys are doing their own thing. And, boxing fans need to just be okay with it because they're going on and doing their own thing. It's not like they're promoting themselves as real championship caliber fighters. They're but they've already carved out their own niche, and they're doing these fights. And honestly, they're entertaining. I'm not going to lie. I got messages from a few people telling me that this YouTuber versus TikTok fight over the weekend was more entertaining than Shakur Stevenson's fight in the main event on ESPN. Go figure, right? These guys are actually going to fight. You got to give them props for that. Logan Paul and KSI, when they fought in Los Angeles at the Staples Center, I had very low expectations for that fight. But they put on an entertaining fight. Austin Mcbroon, Bryce Hall, entertaining fight. Gibb versus Taylor Holder, entertaining fight. Vinny Hacker versus Deji, entertaining fights. All the fights on that card were entertaining. So I think boxing fans need to understand that this isn't boxing that we know it as. Okay, they're not gonna take over the place of they're not gonna throw these, I don't think, at least consistently, on a Shakur Stevenson fight where it's Austin Mcbroon versus Bryce Hall and Shakur Stevenson in the co-main event. Yes, I know that's happened already before with KSI and Logan Paul. That was a pro fight though. These were exhibitions, but I think us as boxing fans, and I know some of you guys are new subscribers to the channel. Thank you so much. You subscribe because of our coverage over on the weekend. I think a lot of boxing fans are just rubbed off the wrong way, but seeing these guys fight over the weekend, one, they're putting in the work, okay? They're putting in the work to not be embarrassed in there. So you got to commend them for that. You look at a guy like Gibb, who looked completely different than what we saw him in the Jake Paul fight. Physique looked great. This is the best shape I've ever seen him in. He was active. He showed skill in there. All these other guys, they put in the work. They dedicated themselves. They sacrificed. That should be commended. But that's also them showing respect to boxing. And I think boxing fans need to see that they are being respectful of boxing because they are putting in the work. They are taking it seriously. They're not taking this as a joke. And I think we should cut them a little bit of slack because at the end of the day, a lot of us boxing fans are a bunch of gordos that sit on the couch drinking beer and eating tortas. don't even run. You see some of the riders. We got to stop with the criticism, and I think little by little, I'm starting to be more open to this and being okay with it because it's its own separate thing. But also, these guys, they all love boxing. They're fans of boxing. Gibb, Deji, Austin Mcbroom had Regis Prograis in his corner. For goodness sake, he had Danny Garcia at the fight ringside. These guys like boxing. They respect the sport. They put in the work. They need to be commended for that. These fans that are bringing in, you got to think, okay, are they there to watch their favorite personality, or are they there because they're fans of boxing? Obviously, they're there to support their guy. But the key question is, are they going to become fans of boxing after? These YouTube personalities became fans of boxing. And at first, I wasn't sure if these new people that are watching these events, will they go ahead and transfer over to the Jamal Charlo fight that's happening this weekend? Are they going to watch the Charlo fight? Are they going to watch Tank's fight the week after that? Some will, some won't. But I think there is some spillage, some leakage of fans being interested in boxing, being interested at the very least, the big fights, which is good because their YouTube personalities that they like are introducing them to this sport. And that's how a sport is able to create new fans and how a sport is able to keep going. So I think working this event, man, they've won me over in terms of I'm not going to give them ish anymore because they are putting in the work. And I genuinely saw from, especially from Jarvis, especially from Gibb, these guys love boxing. They love boxing, and they've done more than any of us have done by actually going in there, having an actual fight, even though it's an exhibition, and get rest of knocking out and being turned into a meme. Michael Lee got knocked out, but you know what? He had the balls to go in there and fight. Not many of us can go ahead and say that. So overall, this is not going to be the new boxing as to what hardcore fight fans are accustomed to, but it's going to be its own thing, and I don't think it's bad for boxing at all. I don't think it's bad. I see the upsides for it. Ninx, what's up, bro? Will you ever see James Charles versus Jake Paul? Don't even know who James Charles is, but thank you for the super chat. Everybody go ahead and like if you can as well. Youngster, what's up, bro? What's going on? Salute and shout out to you from Pomona, California. But man, did you see the Brandon Moreau UFC fight? First Mexican to become undisputed flyweight champion. No, I haven't seen that fight yet because I was working the YouTube versus TikTok fight. The other thing that I want to put out too is just give you just overall impressions of working that event. It was a weird event to work because it's different than the Fox broadcasts that I've worked where, we all meet everybody. We all have a production meeting together. We get to talk to the producers. This was very compartmentalized, and it was a little strange. YouTube talent was kind of strange. I'll just leave it at that compared to other talent that I've worked with before. The crowd, there's a bit more people over there for Floyd versus Logan, but I want to say that the atmosphere was a lot more energetic for this Mcbroon versus Bryce Hall fight than was for Mayweather versus Logan Paul, because these guys were the people that were there were invested in their fighter. And when you're invested in something, obviously more emotions are going to come out. For Mayweather Paul, we had already a preconceived thought of what we thought was going to happen. We were wrong. We all thought that Floyd was going to stop the dude, but we were wrong. And Logan gave a great account of himself. But because of that, I think there wasn't a lot of emotion last 2 weeks ago in Miami as compared to over the weekend, where the atmosphere was good. People were genuinely excited to see the fights and all that. So it was a difference in terms of age group as well. Medium age group was 13 to like 17-year-olds and people going crazy over seeing these YouTubers, which was it was a trip, man. Let me get to some of your comments here. I feel like boxers and boxing fans are mad because it takes years of dedication. It just seems now you just need followers. Here's the thing, though. This is a completely different thing, bro. They're fighting against YouTubers, so it's like, what? Why does it matter? You know, that's like if your Theos are going and they're fighting, and they get a bunch of people to go see your Theos go duke it out in the backyard. Like it's its own different thing. And last weekend made me finally see that and realize that it's its own different thing. It's only complementing boxing because these guys, by introducing boxing to their followers, to their fans, some of them are going to be interested in the other fighters. And they see, an Austin Mcbroon feature Regis Prograis in his vlogs, or like a Danny Garcia, they're going to be like, hey, what's up with this guy, Danny Garcia? And they're going to go see what's up with him. This is where boxing is heading to. Journalists are covering YouTube boxing for clickbait and relevancy. You're stupid. All right, next one. Teofimo fake having COVID-19. No. I saw Teo a few weeks back, and he actually had a COVID scare. It was at the Josh Taylor fight, and he had taken a test, and he's like, "Oh, thank goodness, I tested negative. Nothing had happened to him, but he took a test, and he's like, he was a little worried because he has asthma. So I don't think he faked it at all, man. Why would he fake it when he's getting the highest career payday ever in this fight with George Kambosos? That both guys have been training so much time for this. You wouldn't fake an illness for a $6 million. Shoot, I'll fight with COVID if I had a $6 million payday. So I think that's a very foolish thing to say for a fighter, to say that a fighter was faking that. I wish they could mix those YouTuber boxing as well as promote real fighters for professional matches at the same time. So, they try to do that, and I think that's where boxing fans get kind of angry. When they go to a boxing event, they want to see boxers. Like I said, this is going to be its own separate thing, and that's fine with me if it's its own separate thing, where it's, just YouTubers fighting YouTubers or TikTokers and all that. Pinches Theos throw pay-per-view quality fights every week and bien pedos. Very true, but hey, man, those guys really, really went at it against each other, So I was entertained. Like I was surprised by the quality of fights. I thought people were going to get knocked out because the quality of the boxing standard was going to be so low, but I was surprised. You look at a guy like Gibb, and you look at how he looked against Jake Paul a year ago compared to how he looked in this fight against a guy in that Taylor Holder guy that had some boxing experience. He had a high guard. He didn't really throw a lot, but he showed that he really put in the work and dedicated himself. And I think that's the thing we got to look at it as well. You have these guys that may not seem the most athletic, seem a little nerdy on YouTube, but they're actually coming in and learning the sport and sharing that with new people. And if you know boxing, you know that we need more fans, man. We need more fans. This sport is such a niche sport in the United States. And the fan base is a little older for boxing. You hear it all the time from people working behind the scenes, that the fan base is a little bit older. So boxing does need help in this area, especially with that demographic, for those guys to become fans of the sport and to support the sport as well. Oh, so you think Logan Mayweather was good too? Straight cap. Nah, it was better than I expected. I expected it to be one-sided. I don't know what you're talking about, James. Thoughts on the Gibb fight being overturned? I felt so bad for him in the moment. Yeah, I saw Gibb in the locker room after the fight, and he was pissed and he was gutted and disappointed. And I don't know if I'm going to get featured in his vlog, but they were filming it, and I told him, like, bro, you won that fight, man. I don't know how they came out with that score. It was a bogus score. ISCA, which was, I guess, acting as the commission, which is kind of weird. They're the kickboxing organization. They sent a letter over to the promoters, and I think Gibb got a hold of it. That result was overturned, and they said that there was a mistake there for the scoring of the fight. So Gibb was awarded the decision. He ended up winning that fight. Do you think eventually some YouTuber is going to get seriously hurt? As explained by Canelo, they are letting fight people that aren't fighters. By the way, hello from Chile, all the way in the south. That is a concern, of course, but it's looking like these guys are putting in the work, putting on the dedication, and they do realize that this is a sport that you can't take lightly. But obviously, that is a worry if one of these guys starts doing well and then wants to fight an actual pro boxer. I want to say, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to go their way, to be honest, I do want to plug one thing. There's fights going on this weekend. There's a lot of fights actually going on this weekend. We partnered up with MyBookie. MyBookie.ag is hooking us up and hooking you guys up. So if you guys want to place any bets on the Anderson Silva versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fight that's happening this weekend, or the Inoue versus Michael Dasmariñas fight, or the Jamal Charlo versus the Montiel fight, go over to mybookie.ag, sign up now and use our promo code FightHub and get your first deposit matched halfway up to $1,000. Let them know we sent you. So use our promo code FightHub to get that free deposit bonus and start your day off with a win. But anything, anytime, anywhere, mybookie.ag. I'm going to go ahead and show you the odds. Plus 170, Anderson Silva against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Chavez Jr. minus 250. I think you can get some value there because you never know ever with Chavez Jr. Chavez Jr. is going to Chavez Jr. Somehow, some way, something weird always happens with Chavez Jr. fights. So it's not without the realm of possibility that something happens in this fight and Anderson Silva somehow, some way ends up getting the win. Juan Macias Montiel plus 1,100. Jamal Charlo minus 3,000. Figures Charlo's probably going to knock him out, to be honest. Inoue Dasmariñas. Dasmariñas plus 1,120. Inoue minus 2,080. Lomachenko Nakatani. Lomachenko minus 1,120. Nakatani plus 760. And I know you guys are excited for this one. The odds have dropped big time on this one. Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley, both minus 20. I believe for a while, Jake Paul was the underdog. I remember seeing him at like plus 120. So the odds are even now. Even money on that fight. People don't know, man. People don't know. But that was a shout out to our bookie sponsor, mybookie.ag. Use our promo code FightHub to get your deposit matched. People were comparing Deji with Andy Ruiz at one point. Yeah, I know, they're crazy. Do you have an affiliate link for us? Just use the code, bro. Just use the code. But all right, you guys, I wanted to just jump on here quickly and let you guys know how it was working the show. Everyone was pretty cool. A little hectic. They had performances like DJ Khaled, Migos, and all that. H, remember when you were criticizing and acting above the YouTube fights and then you got hired and changed your tune disingenuous? No, bro. They changed my mind. And I explained that. You probably tuned in here late, but yeah, they won me over the weekend because these guys actually like boxing. I had conversations with some of them and you could tell they really love boxing. And, I was looking at this as maybe money grabs by them. And some of the TikTokers, they purely did this for money. They didn't, it was very obvious that they just cared about the money. But a lot of the YouTubers, they legit like boxing and they trade their butt out for it, And I think that's really what started changing my mind, when I talked to Gib in the locker room and seeing like how he was. And I'm like, man, like this guy's experienced all the worst things that a real fighter experiences in boxing. Knockout loss, an embarrassing knockout loss. Goes and he fights his butt off for 5 rounds. Very apparent he wins the fight compared to everybody in the arena. And then he gets a bogus decision that's awarded a draw. He ran the gambit of emotions that any other professional fighter goes through. And I felt so bad for them. Obviously, it got overturned, but it's like it made me start looking at him and the other guys, going through the same emotions that these boxers go through. And then seeing the way, they fought, the way they trained, the way they looked, and I'm like, you know what? These guys like boxing, and I don't think it's very fair for me anymore to like criticize what they're putting on, because here's the key thing. It's not something that's trying to replace fights, and they're not looking to replace fighters. And they know that they're not pros as well. This is its own separate thing. It's its own separate thing that's going to develop its own business model and all that. And I, looking at it now, I'm starting to get it a little bit more, and I'm starting to be open to it a little bit more, because these guys love boxing. They like boxing, and they're sharing that like and that love of boxing to all their followers as well. So, hey, you guys, I have a flight that I have to catch to Mexico. So this was very last minute, very impromptu, but I just wanted to put it out there. Just my experience working the event and what I felt overall of what happened, and just sharing with you a little bit of that. So I'm going to jump on here maybe once again in the week. Catch me on pay-per-view this weekend, Saturday. Chavez Jr., Anderson Silva, Chavez Sr., Hector Camacho Jr. I'll be hosting the undercard press conference and doing questions at the weigh-in for Chavez Sr. versus Camacho Jr. Teofimo Lopez, George Kambosos canceled because Teofimo Lopez got COVID. So the attention is going to be on our pay-per-view, on the Charlo fight that's happening on Showtime this weekend, and on Naoya Inoue on ESPN. Inoue is one of the most exciting fighters in all of boxing, a knockout puncher, superstar potential, but he had a broken orbital bone in his last fight with Nonito Doñer. So this is going to be really interesting to see how he's able to deal with the damage from punches, and if he's the same fighter, because as we've seen time and time again, when a fighter suffers an orbital bone injury, they're not the same. They can't take the punches the same way. They swell up. Something's taken away from them. So this is very interesting to see what can happen to Inoue, because Inoue, consensus number 2 pound for pound best fighter in the world. Inoue's can't miss TV. Hurricane Hank says, rumor has it Teo couldn't make weight. I hope to God not. I hope to God not. Where are these rumors coming from? I highly doubt it. But all right, guys, I gotta go. I gotta finish packing and go to Mexico. I'll see you guys next week. Next week we resume our regularly scheduled program, Monday, 5:35. Like and share. Subscribe to the channel if this is the first time you're tuning in. Follow us on social media at Fight Up TV. Follow me as well at Hey, it's Marcos V. And have a great rest of your week. Later, guys. Peace out.